The European Union hopes a new $47 billion plan to boost its semiconductor industry will play a key role in strengthening Europe's competitiveness.
It's aiming to double its global market share to 20% by 2030. The chip manufacturing industry is currently dominated by Asian companies, especially from China. Well, let's talk to Wang, who's a senior analyst at Counterpoint Research. Welcome to the programme. So what do you make of this deal? Has it hit the mark? Will it do what the EU wants it to do?
First of all, thank you for having me on the programme. Really, I think the EU Chips Act is just the starting gun on the global race for semis superiority. We think it hits the right message. It answers to some key questions that the EU's vast industrial sector has been asking for a long time. And we do believe that the policy can support a wider EU industrial strength. So in terms of the effect, now it might be very early days. So we can't really say if it's enough, because semiconductors, it's a very long it has a very long value chain. That's a very complicated industry. So the verdict will probably be out in a few years, if not more than a decade, really.
So how important is it for Europe to have its own supply of semiconductors, given the recent supply issues we've seen?
Yeah, I think we first have to look at the rationale of EU governments and also global governments in general. When it comes to the supply of semiconductors, why is everyone suddenly paying attention? From the EU's perspective, it's very important. Automotive industry was hit extremely badly during COVID due to the chip shortages. And second thing was the conflict in Ukraine, which has put everyone on notice on the fragility of supply chains of key components, not to mention semiconductors, which powers a lot of the digital world.
So sorry to jump in. I was just going to talk a little bit about how much this is going to cost, because the EU is spending $47 billion. But when you look at the United States and Asia, they've spent much more on a similar plan. Is this going to be enough for the EU?
I think you have the right message there, because for us, $47 billion might sound like a big number, but we think it's only allows them to buy the ticket into the arena, because as you mentioned, subsidy programs from other regions are all much bigger in dollar terms. And one crucial thing is follow-up spending will be mandatory to keep the program running, which means the costs could soon balloon uncontrollably. So it will be a very hefty task for the policymakers to agree to the program, and also for the industry to take off, because there are some obstacles that are in place.
Well, given that there are obstacles in place, the goal is to double the global market share by 20% by 2030. To do that, it's going to need to quadruple its production. Is that achievable?
Well, we have to look at where EU needs to pick the battles, because not EU as well as the US, China, South Korea, many other places are coming up with subsidy programs. Now, if everyone wants to increase their market share, there will be a lot of double counting. So I'm pretty sure that further maths needs to be done, but it could be very difficult for everyone to be doubling their market share. For the EU, in the policy, I think they do really want to boost the capacity on the most leading edge chips. But as of the moment, the EU does not really have capacity for manufacturing at below 10 nanometers. So it's starting from not a great position. EU has some interesting assets, to be fair, in some niche segments, such as industrial sectors and automotive sectors. So in terms of boosting capacity, I would say if the EU can pick their battles very carefully and really hit the targets where it actually helps EU's strengths, namely industrial and automotive sectors, then I do think the CHIPS Act can really help EU's industry and economy as a whole.
Wang from Counterpoint Research, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us today.